and maybe even more so with the women, because I think women feel like they need to compete in a male world, especially if they're in corporate. And I would challenge that because I think, we are better off working to our strengths. There's not many of my people in Sydney, so yeah,
come all the way to Harlem.
Yeah, I'm having to resist the urge to say hello to every single black person I see on the street.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week here on Counterpunch. We are going to be talking about something I think everybody needs a little bit more of in their life, which is self-care. Shalane, who do we have talking about self-care with us today?
Fantastic. I'm super excited to introduce our guest. You may have had him lull you to sleep on one of his sleep stories on the infamous Calm app. You may have picked him up from the Insight Timer during maybe an anxiety-filled session, and he can calm you down quickly, SOS. I'm talking about a stress and burnout specialist who has really dove in and kind of marketed this for people across the world. I'm really happy to say we've got Chibs Okereke with us.
Hello.
Hey, Chibs.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hey, we're great. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, good to be here. Good to be here.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. We've got you all the way from New York, Harlem today.
Oh, yeah. I've been hanging out with my people in Harlem.
That's good stuff, man.
There's not many of my people in Sydney, so yeah,
come all the way to Harlem.
Yeah, I'm having to resist the urge to say hello to every single black person I see on the street because yeah, it'll probably take me my trip.
I'd love to hear that social experiment and see
halfway down 125th Street. But yeah, no, it's good to be here.
Yes, thanks for being with us.
Fantastic. I'm going to give our listeners kind of a little bit of a backstory here. So we're here on Counterpunch podcast, right? And the podcast is based off of my book, 6 Rounds to Resilience. But what our listeners don't know is that Chibs and I work together in that he was helping me create space and tone down my anxiety and helping me with my goals to create the book. So I was able to write the book that led us to the podcast. So I just wanted to give you a shout out because we wouldn't even be here if your techniques and strategies weren't useful and didn't work.
So basically, this is my podcast, then, is what you're saying.
Comes right full circle back to Chibs.
There we go.
Brittany, you wouldn't be here. None of us would be listening.
No, really great to. It was really great to work with you, and it was really lovely to see how you developed and how you shined. And yeah, it's just all, I mean, I guess we can talk about it later on, but I mean, many of these things is just about getting out of our own way so that we can do the special things that we have been put onto this earth to do. So it's really lovely to see how you've shone in the last year. I'm really proud of you.
Hey, thank you. Yeah. And we would touch base between sessions and I would touch back. I don't like this one. This isn't working for me. Like we got to find something else. And there's always that wiggle room because not everybody is the same. And I'm sure you deal with that probably quite a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're all individuals. And so for me, when I'm working with a client, it's about just finding what works for that person. Okay. Because, we tend to get, especially if we're, like, let's just say I've just found mindfulness and mindfulness was worked wonders for me. And then all of a sudden I'm just telling everyone how amazing mindfulness is and how everyone should do this and everyone should do what I'm doing. And then people will try it. They're like, that doesn't work at all for me. And the problem is, we kind of, we're all individuals. So we just got to find that thing that works for us. And even if it's a certain type of meditation that we've learned, there's many different styles of meditation, there's many different styles of breathing techniques. And so what a breathing technique might work well for me and might make you feel anxious. So it doesn't mean breathing techniques don't work for you, just means we need to find the right one for you. So that's kind of how that's what my philosophy is based around. We're all individuals, so there's definitely something that works. It's just a matter of finding it.
So what does your self-care routine look like with and when you're practicing your mindfulness? What are some of the things that work for you?
It's a good question.
Yeah. So my you would probably be surprised to hear that, a big part of my practice isn't sitting down for a very long time each day with my eyes closed, meditating, right? Certainly, I think it's important at the start to really develop a daily practice, a strong daily practice. So when I was working with Charlene at the start, then we were doing maybe 30 minutes of meditation each day, just to kind of build up that muscle and build up just to build up that mindfulness muscle. But for me and for my high performing clients, mindfulness is really about building up our awareness so that when we become stressed and when we start behaving differently because we're stressed, or maybe when tension starts arising in the body under stress, or we can notice very quickly when something goes wrong so that we can bring in one of our stress reduction tools. So for me, it's about building mindfulness meditation is about building that awareness so that I can realize if I'm sitting there and I'm working on my computer and I can feel my shoulders going up towards my ears. I'm like, I notice very quickly tension. All right, maybe that's all I need to do. Maybe I just need to take a breath and relax. Now I can continue what I'm doing in a relaxed manner. Okay, so that's the practice, just to build up my awareness of my stress signals. But really, my self-care is noticing when I'm stressed and then doing something about that stress in the moment. If I can't do anything about that stress in the moment, then my self-care practices plan something in the future to reduce my stress. Because sometimes we just, we're tied in. We have to do this. We're on a deadline. We have to get this thing done. So a bit of stress is okay, but we don't want to be stressed every single day, every single hour of every day, right? So it's all about kind of, making sure that there's space in my calendar, making sure there's space in my life. And that space could be to breathe, it could be to meditate, it could just be to relax and do nothing. But for me, the most important part of my self-care practice is creating that space, times where I have got nothing to do, and that's okay. So if I don't have space, something's gone wrong in my calendar.
It's a good answer.
Okay.
Self-awareness of what's going on and then addressing it.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. Yeah. Because so many of us, especially here in America, we just go, right? Until it's like a big problem to fix.
Exactly. And I think that's and it's not just America, it's really the world, and even the supposed Eastern countries that should know better. They were the birthplace of all these ancient techniques. But now you've got a bunch of Westerners going over to China to go and talk about stress reduction. It's just wild. I mean, so the world has got everything wrong. We're taking our corporate lives way too seriously, and we're not spending a lot of time thinking about what our lives should be or what we want our lives to be. And we just seem to be caught up in this cycle of stress and anxiety and burnout. And so that's what I'm here to hopefully help in some way, to show people that there's even if you do want to be successful, it's okay. You can still be successful. You don't have to be stressed out and burnt out the whole time. We don't have to wear stress and burnout like a badge of honor.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, one of the things that I've heard you've been working on or part of in some ways, the Mettle app, METTLE. Can you explain like your involvement in that and also what the Mettle app is?
Yeah, so the Mettle app is a men's mental fitness app or men's mental health app. Okay, so there's kind of three parts to it. There's breath work, there's NLP, hypnosis, mind hacking, and then there's meditation. So I kind of look after the meditation side of things. And then we've got Bear Grylls, who's the founder of the app, and he just does his manly Bear Grylls, type stuff, and just makes the rest of us feel bad. But I'm way taller than him anyway, so that's fine. That's the only saving grace. But yeah, so it's
how tall are you?
I'm 6'7". I always like
just You are way taller than, okay. 6'7".
But
Keep
yeah,
on going.
yeah. But no, it's a really, you know, and surprisingly, there's not much out there for men. I get, and maybe not surprisingly, because men don't really like to talk about these things, and you know, there's a lot of emphasis on us just, you know, sucking it up and just dealing with life. But the problem is, at the moment, life is very difficult for a lot of people. Half of those people are men, and men seem to be very good at killing themselves as well, which is the really unfortunate part. So there's a lot of, you know, I don't know if men's mental health is worse than women's mental health, but certainly men are following through with, you know, their depression, where so that's a real worry. So there's a lot of you know, there's a high incidence of men taking their own lives, and so we're just trying to really encourage men to talk about it, show men that there are tools out there to kind of just take the edge off. And again, you know, if you do a 5-minute meditation of mine, it's not going to change your life, but it might change your moment, right? And it's about those little moments during the day, you know, and if we can transform those moments throughout the day, then those moments can, I guess, string together to form this kind of, you know, bit of a sense of well-being over time. But sometimes it's, you know, it's just taking ourselves off the edge of that cliff, you know, each moment, each day, because if we fall off that cliff, you know, that when we get totally triggered, then it's hard to come back. So what I'm all about, okay, especially if you're a high performer, especially if you want to get things done, you're ambitious, you're success driven, all right, let me help you get towards your goals, but in a more sustainable, manageable way, rather than, again, doing what I used to do back in the day. Stress, burn out, fall off the cliff, patch myself up, go again, and then keep repeating that cycle over and over again, you know, not really enjoying my life, and actually not really producing much over time. Whereas now it's all about that kind of sustainable performance and taking those little moments in the day, little few minutes here and there, just to decompress, take the edge off that stress, and then move on, hopefully in a more relaxed way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think everybody wants that.
Right.
You've sold me. You've sold me.
Your next client will be Brittany. And so, yeah, just kind of piggybacking off of what you just kind of mentioned, why don't we dive a little deeper? Tell me a little bit about, you know, it's just kind of vague on your sites. You know, what really was that backstory? What really inspired this and this change from you? Because you're not just sitting here telling people what to do. You know, you could be very empathetic to it because you lived it. You lived it. You're not just like, do as I say, but you're like, hey, like I actually, you know, stuff did happen to me, and this is why I know this works, and this is why this is important. So
Yeah, so I'll give you the kind of quick version. So I did the corporate thing in my 20s, climbing up the corporate ladder. Eventually became an HR manager, so doing the HR corporate thing. Went back to university, maybe about 28 years old, and did a master's in organizational psychology, kind of build on the HR stuff. The idea was to go to Australia for a year, have some fun on a holiday working visa, and then come back and be a psychologist. Ended up starting a company out there, ended up doing pretty well at that, and then just started chasing the money and doing the entrepreneurial thing, you know, without really thinking about why I was doing it, why I wanted the money, what success meant like. Didn't really have any idea, but, you know, I'm a poor boy from the projects in London, from, you know, council estate in London. So I guess I was just on this kind of mindless success money path, right? And I didn't really have any mentors or anything telling me to do anything any differently. So I just chased the money, got more and more success, you know. And so at one point I'd find myself in my fancy apartment overlooking the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera House. I had my Mercedes in the garage. I had my Rolexes and my fancy suits, and with dozens of staff that I was managing in my companies. Companies were turning over millions of dollars a year. But unfortunately, I was super stressed. I was massively depressed. And, I was having thoughts of not wanting to be here anymore. So it was a really rough time, even though everything from the outside looked pretty perfect. And everyone was really surprised to find out what I'd actually gone through, because again, going back to the whole man thing, it's not just men, but it tends to be the kind of high performer, and maybe we can talk about it a little bit later on, but I kind of, one of my insights was that a lot of these high performers and the people that are coming to me, they're kind of in their masculine energy, whatever that means, and we can kind of talk about that if you want to. So for that masculine energy is all about performing and striving and moving forward and goal oriented and being goal oriented, but there was no kind of nurturing, there was no softness in amongst that, right? And so that's kind of what I've been able to develop over the years, to kind of keep that male energy high, because that gets places, and that gets us towards our goals. Hopefully we can find good goals to move towards. That's another part of what we of what's important, finding our purpose. But then it's that kind of softness that mindfulness has brought to me. So yeah, so I found one of the things I found to help me recover, because I got to a real bad stage of burnout where I didn't have any opportunity but to just end everything that I was doing and resign from everything that I had anything to do with work-wise. Luckily, I had a bunch of money to look after me in the bank, so I didn't have to work for a year or two. So it really allowed me to really focus on what was important. So, honestly, thank God for my burnout, because it gave me an opportunity to pivot and find meaning and find purpose and do something that was good for both me and for the world. And yeah, mindfulness, I found mindfulness. I was like, yeah, mindfulness there's nothing magical or mystical or weird or woo-woo about mindfulness. It's very practical. It's very straightforward. And to me, it seemed really easy to implement. So that's kind of what I've been working on for the last however many years, is to really make everything practical, accessible, easy to understand, and manageable. Generally for people like me, that's kind of crazy A-type striver.
I feel you there. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying you're one of my typical clients, but you are
not.
one of my typical clients. Yeah.
I'm not, you're probably not surprised. Of course, she went straight from the book to a podcast. Like, why wouldn't she?
Nice.
Not
Yeah.
surprised. She wouldn't stop at the book. The book's not going to be enough.
Of
Yeah.
course.
So when you deal with strivers like us, yeah, you have to, if there's always going to be a goal, or we're always going after something, then I think it is very critical that we know how to pull back and are self-aware and create that space, those moments, yeah, to just be, not be working and not be doing, right, but just be. Yeah.
And one way of kind of helping these high performers kind of understand the power of doing nothing is, I kind of like to think of my guys as like corporate athletes, right? So if you're an athlete, you're not going to be training and competing every single day of the week, right? You need to have those ice baths. You need to get your 8 hours of sleep a night. You need to be going and getting massages and physio, and you need to be patching yourself up. So that kind of boring side of self-care, I like to think of as that kind of, that ice bath, that time out, that massage, that physio appointment, so that we can keep ourselves performing at a high level. Like sports science is always a step ahead of the corporate world, but we're starting to understand now. If we look at what athletes do, because that's really important for them to be sustainable.
Yeah.
They can't just shine brightly for 1 week, and then be terrible the next week. They need to be on form each week. So it's very important for them to look after themselves. So every second counts when it comes to sports. So we can really take a lot from sports and from athletics. to help us think about ourselves in that in terms of self-care for our mental fitness as well, instead of
That's fantastic. Yeah, treat the mind like the rest of your body. If you are an athlete, the mind is a muscle just the same, and it needs those rest days. It needs those recovery days. I think that's really insightful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's almost like it if you're an athlete, but are we thinking of the mind as the same? Yeah.
yeah,
It's just
and we
important.
don't for some reason, so
No, we just run it and run it and run it and run it. And
yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so maybe not on as high of a level with as some of like you were on with your burnout. What for? Excuse me. Let me start over. First, for just anybody out there, what are some signs of a burnout?
Yeah, well, I guess we all know what stress is. We've all felt stress. We've all felt that fight or flight, right? So, and we can be chronically stressed, and chronic stress is kind of what leads to burnout. So if we're chronically stressed, then we're going to probably have trouble sleeping. We're probably going to be having trouble focusing. We're probably going to be having issues with, we might be having issues with our stomachs. We might be just not enjoying our lives. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels like we're under attack. We're constantly irritated, constantly annoyed, constantly frustrated, constantly worrying, so we're in that kind of unsure state. Some of us might be more instead of fight flight, some of us might be more in that kind of freeze state, like a bit numb and disconnected from the world. So that's stress. So we're all aware of what stress is, okay? And most people in corporate have accepted that stress is a normal part of life, which I would challenge. Certainly a little bit of stress is normal, but daily stress shouldn't be. But daily stress, that's chronic stress. Now, burnout, and this is when organizations are particularly interested in burnout, because when you get to burnout, that's when your performance drops. Okay, so there's three aspects now. There's four. There's been another one that's been introduced by the researchers, but burnout is stress plus overwhelming exhaustion, negativity and cynicism about your job, and decreased job performance. And then there's number four, which has recently come out, and that's been cognitive decline. So how I explained it when I was going through my burnout was like I lost about 30 IQ points. It was like I couldn't make decisions like I used to. I couldn't, like even the easiest of decisions just was very difficult for me to make, right?
Almost
So
like a system shut down, like
yeah.
overheating, yeah.
Exactly. So that's when your brain is starting to, let's say, break, right? So again, chronic stress, we can still work at a high level, we can still be productive, but our life is miserable, okay? But we can still deal with everything that we need to deal with. Burnout, that's when our capability drops as well. And we feel really negative, and it feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So stress generally has a feeling of, once I've got to here, everything will be okay. So stress is kind of goal oriented. That's why stress is good. If we do have a goal, a strong goal that we need to achieve very quickly, so a deadline, okay, cool. Bit of stress is good. It heightens our focus and allows us to be more productive for a short period of time. But when there's no light at the end of the tunnel, when you can't see the end of it, that's burnout. So that feels like there's no end to this. This is just my life now. And that's where the dejection and the negativity comes in, and the exhaustion. And we're no good to anyone. And if we're burnt out for too long, then we get to habitual burnout, which is kind of that's the nervous system gone. So the unpolitically correct term would be nervous breakdown. But I think people really need to understand. I think that non-PC term is actually a better term for us to use, because it really tells you what is going on, because burnout, yeah, everyone gets burnt out, but no, burnout is proper. Burnout is no joke.
That's a real issue. Yeah. That's a good way to describe it too. Like the two separate, like here's this, here's what this feels like.
Mm.
Absolutely. I was going to circle back a little bit just to the metal app. I was just going to ask, is that being received well? How is that? Because I know it's pretty new. How's that being received?
Yeah, so I'm not sure what the latest metrics are, but when I checked in maybe about a month ago, there was like 20,000 downloads.
Okay.
Um, so
Cool. So
that's really.
guys are using it. It's
Yeah,
being
so it's mainly in the
utilized.
UK. Yeah, so they're starting in the UK. That's the obvious place to start. Bear Grylls is there. All the other, I guess we're all. Even though I live in Sydney, I'm English. So we're all kind of English on the app. So that's the first place to start. But yeah, they'll be rolling it out at some point, and doing a push. But yeah, just making sure that everything's working well and making sure that it's being received right, and we're getting feedback, and we're putting the right content that people want to hear. But yeah, like it's been really well received, and surprisingly, there's been more women than we thought getting involved. And I guess it's not surprising because um, as I told you before, I think a lot of high performers are kind of in their masculine. So the kind of content that you'll see on that you'll hear on the app, even though it's for men, it's for that more male mindset, let's say. So and it's just more, what my meditations are like. They're kind of quite straight talking, straightforward. So whether I'm talking to a man, maybe I'm saying, hey gents, but I guess if you ignore that, then there's no reason why we shouldn't allow men and women and anyone in between to listen to listen to the metal app. But yeah,
Fantastic.
that's going well.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it's time. It's definitely time. We've kind of touched on that every episode a little bit, underlying kind of the differences between, kind of the gender differences between men and women and that. And so, yeah, talk to me a little bit more about this masculine energy and also that need for that nurturing energy to kind of
Mhm.
counterbalance that out.
Yeah, so like when I first started out, I assumed, the gap in the market that I could see, I was like, okay, men need to hear from someone like me because, I kind of, I look a certain way, I sound a certain way. And so it's easy for me to, let's say, resonate with a skeptic or, someone whose mind is too busy to meditate. And, that kind of crowd. So I thought my gift to the world would be, I'd be able to be kind of, a good role model for men, and I'd be able to show men a certain way. But as time went on, I was like, oh, most of my audience is women. So maybe men aren't ready for that yet. And then if I looked at my kind of one-on-one clients, I'd say half would be men, half would be women. But then my insight was, okay, everyone that's coming to me, they're very much in their masculine energy, right? And maybe even more so with the women, because I think women feel like they need to compete in a male world, especially if they're in corporate. And again, I would challenge that, because I think we are better off working to our strengths and what feels right with us. But sometimes, sometimes whether we need to or not, women feel like they need to compete. So a lot of them are very high in their masculine energy. So there's two sides of mindfulness, right? So we've got the intention side of mindfulness, and that's the focus, the concentration, the hard masculine side of mindfulness. There's the feminine side of mindfulness, and that's the attitude. Okay, and when I did my teacher training originally, and we learned about the attitudes of mindfulness, and there were things like acceptance, beginner's mind, trust, letting go, non-striving, non-judgment, gratitude, generosity, patience. And I was like, oh, that's cute, something for the ladies, but I'm into this. I'm into the hard, masculine, strong, focused, concentration side of mindfulness. And then COVID comes along, and then I found myself saying things like, oh, just gonna have to accept things the way they are. I'm just going to have to trust that the universe has got my back. I'm just going to have to be grateful for what I've got right now. And I was like, these words sound a little bit familiar. So let me dust off my teacher training books. And then I took a deep dive on the attitudes of mindfulness, and that was a big game changer for me. And I really focused on that rather than the intention side of things, because you know what, I've got enough of that. I've got enough of that male energy. I don't need any more of that. But what that has allowed me to do, it's meant that I've been able to kind of dial up that kindness, that compassion, that softness. So I keep that energy here, but I just bring this up a little bit. So now I've got some of that feminine energy, for want of a better word. And I wouldn't be telling my clients about the feminine energy until at least week 3. Don't want to scare them, don't want to put them off. But, you know, if we can dial up that kind of nurturing aspect to ourselves, then that kind of looks after that crazy alpha striving, whatever, you know, masculine energy that's there. Because what we tend to do, people in that energy, when times get tough, we tend to double down on that energy, right? And that's what leads to anxiety, burnout, stress, okay? Because now we're just revving way too hard. So keep that energy here. That's great. That got us to where we are. That's made us successful, and it helps us do good things. But just dial that up. Be a bit more patient, be a bit more kind to yourself, be a bit more compassionate, be a bit more trusting in the process, be a bit more grateful and generous, and you know, all those kind of really nice things that don't come easily to a striver.
They don't. They don't. They feel very uncomfortable or awkward. It is stuff we have to. It's very uncomfortable. Like, I just rather do this. Just do this more. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to
And you
reach
can do
over
that
here
for
into what doesn't feel comfortable. Yeah.
yeah. And you can do that for a while. You can do that for a day or two, or maybe a few
Right.
weeks. But then you break yourself, and then you
Yeah.
have to recover again, and then you know, and then you're caught up in that cycle. So yeah, so that's been the easiest life hack possible. And so what I've realized is that those strivers, those ambitious folks, they've got enough of that. They just need to dial up their feminine energy.
That's fantastic.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, even as a woman, like I manage a business and I'm the leader in that business, and I definitely recognize that I step into my masculine energy quite a bit, and most of the time people don't know how to take that coming from a woman, and it's hard to find that balance between your feminine energy and your masculine, for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's a, you know, it's a challenge, but you know, but that's also the fun. That's also the fun in the game. That's also the journey, you know, and yeah, as long as we're not giving ourselves too much of a hard time. Again, you know, that's that feminine energy there. That masculine energy is the you know, the taskmaster, the drill sergeant in your head. But yeah, once you can kind of calm that down, then it's just a nice, like for me now, it's a really nice place to be in my head. And the advantage, the massive advantage of making it really nice in my head is I can literally do no wrong. If I screw up, oh, that's okay. You screwed up. You know, you'll be okay, you know. And so, and then I'm like, yeah, we'll be okay. Okay, cool. So now I'm not spending time drinking away some extra stress that I've lumped upon myself because I've got the stress in my life, plus I've got this person beating me up in my head as well, causing even more stress. So there's inevitable stress in the world. You're going to be stressed out. We have to accept that. But let's not add on. Let's not pile on. You know, the world is going to give you enough. Don't add on more to yourself, because it's going to take a lot longer for you to get back on track if you do pile on to yourself. So yeah, turning this into a nice place in my head has been a really game changer for me, and my productivity is now through the roof, and I feel like I'm doing a lot less work, but I am doing a lot more work, but it just feels easier. I'm not doubting myself the whole time. I'm not.
I need to get on that level.
Yes.
I may need to sign up again. Not quite there yet. No, it's a great label to be at. It's a good place to be at mentally.
So for our listeners, if they seriously do want to sign up with you, where do they do that? How do they go about getting some time with you and some coaching?
Yeah, well, after I've said all that, I'm not doing one-on-ones anymore. So, yeah,
Okay.
That's good to know.
Okay, we'll edit that
yeah,
part out. There's
yeah,
no
yeah,
one-on-one.
yeah. So,
I'll make sure we bleep that.
Yeah.
no, I mean, no, you could I mean, this is, this is kind of, it's worth talking about because, this is, I want to make sure that I'm functioning fully and I'm enjoying my life while I'm kind of happy. I've got a big vision, and my purpose and my vision, which I think is important for everyone to have. It's like I've literally put it on my website for all to see, right? So I have a purpose, I have a vision, and I've got and all these great opportunities are coming to me. Like, so I'm working with the Calm app, which is amazing. So I spend probably half of my time working with Calm. I spend a bunch of time working with the Metal app. I work with University of British Columbia Hospital, and I'm helping kind of partners of women with postpartum depression, teaching them mindfulness, right? So I've got all these kind of like weird little, not weird little projects, but like, fun projects that I'm getting involved in. And I also want to kind of help the everyday person. I want to get as much help out there to as many people as possible. And so I felt myself getting a bit overloaded at the end of last year. And then I was like, okay, what needs to go? Because again, if you do 7 fun things in the week, let's say I go on 7 dates in a week, right? Suddenly that's not fun, right? There's so much thing is too much fun. So all of a sudden I'm hating my life if I'm doing like some amazing things in a week. But if I go on 2 dates a week, okay, that's great. That's a lot of fun, right? So I need to make sure that I've got enough space in my calendar so that I'm still enjoying everything that I'm doing and I'm still able to work at a very high level. So one thing that had to give, even though I love doing the one-on-ones, that takes up a lot of my time because I feel very responsible for my one-on-one clients. So I put a lot of energy into that. So even though I get a lot back, it takes a lot of my energy. So by creating some space in my, by stopping, by not doing the one-on-ones. So what I'm going to be doing now is doing small groups so that, because back in the day, as you know, I would only work with 5 clients at any one time so that I've got, again, enough to give people. So now I'm going to start doing small groups so I can have those same 5 people in one group. Okay. So me, I'm a productivity coach as well. So I practice what I preach and I look around and like, okay, what can give? Because it's very important to have space. I always want to have space so that so if you say to me, oh, Chibs, you want to come on the podcast? I don't ever want to say to you, oh, I'm just too busy, and be really passive aggressive about life. I want to be like, yeah, I want space in my calendar so I can say yes. So I can say yes to things like that, and so I can say yes to a random meeting and random coffee with someone. I never want to be that busy because that keeps me in a creative space and that allows me to work at a very high level.
So they can still work with you like in a group, or they can of course hop on and get your information, like Metal, Calm app. You get your stuff everywhere, I'm sure,
so they can go so they can go onto my website and they can register their interest for the next course that's going to come up. So there will be a course coming at some point where I'll be teaching, doing everything that I would do with the one-on-ones, but in a smaller group setting. And I think that'll be more fun as well for everyone and kind of be nice to share information and be with people that are going through something similar to you. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Stress and burnout coach who doesn't do one-on-one coaching anymore.
Well, I'm glad I got to get in, dude. I'm glad I got to get in and take advantage of that when I could, because it was really helpful. It was extremely helpful. It was needed. It was needed at that time. And I think, and you probably get people, when we get to the point where we're reaching out and Googling for help, we're probably not at the best place, so it's like needed. It's not a want. It's not like I want to go get my hair done. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm not operating very well. I need help like now. So, or at least in my case, it wasn't like I see myself go, it's like, oh God, somebody slow this train down a little bit. Like now, but help me put the brakes on. I don't know how. yeah, all I knew how to do was just like keep going and going and going. You're like recognizing you need to slow down. What does that look
Yeah,
like?
because it's
Mhm.
hard, like honestly, like once you're chronically stressed, that's when it's really hard to see anything. When you're just
Yeah.
once you're immersed in the stress, then you're just dealing with your nervous system just feels like it's dealing with danger the whole time. So
Mhm.
everything feels urgent. So even uh, uh, your email inbox feels urgent. So
Oh yeah.
you might be staying up to 11 p.m. clearing your inbox, but really, is that important right now? But you don't know. You can't prioritize when you're stressed out. You can only see the danger that's in front of you. And right now, my to-do list is the danger that's in front of me. My email inbox is the danger that's in front of me. So you've
Uh-huh.
always got work to do. So you're always busy. Whereas now, with space and with distance and with mindfulness, I'm able to prioritize. I'm able to go, what's the most important thing that I'm doing right now? It's that. All right, let me just do that. And then that's just one thing. One thing's easy to do. One thing's always easy to do, but it's the little to-do list that's buzzing in the back of your brain. It's the 150 tabs that you've got open on your computer that are shouting at you that there's all this unfinished business. There's this inbox that's screaming at you. So there's all these things in the world and notifications telling your nervous system how urgent everything is and how little time you've got. So yeah, so sometimes we need that outside person to kind of just let us,
Yeah.
the world's not going to fall apart if you take, a couple of hours off today and go and get a massage, right?
Yeah.
Let's experiment. Let's
Let's experiment.
let's see.
Try
Let's see.
something. Tell me if you feel better when you get back.
Yeah, how about we go away for a weekend, and then see what happens, and like, does the world fall apart? No. Did people pick up your slack? Yeah, they did. Okay, cool. All right. Now let's so we've got to give people baby steps and calm them down slowly because yeah, we all think we're way more important than we are.
We do. Yeah, we do. Especially, I could even say like as moms. I think moms are really bad, or maybe even single parents. But like, I have to be there. Like, they're not going to be okay without me, and usually they're going to be okay, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's an element of that, right? So again, we don't want to, I'm not telling people that, let your kids run amok, while
Right. No.
mummy's doing yoga right now. So, if they're beating each other up in the corner, all right, yeah, mama's got to go and mama's got to get to work. But yeah, but there is space. We can create space, and it's about, again, organizing that. If we can organize it, make those decisions when we're not stressed, and then we can just follow instructions. So I like to just kind of have instructions to follow so that I don't have to think too much and make decisions, because it's, again, when you're stressed out, you can't make decisions well. And
No.
more decisions you have to make, the more that piles on the stress. Less decisions you have to make, the less stressful life becomes. So plan in advance, plan your self-care in advance, and it's more likely to get done.
That's a good tip too. Love it. I love that tip. Plan it in advance, and it's more likely to get done.
Yeah.
Rather than just like, oh, I need to do this. Plan it in advance. That's great. Chibs, you gave us some good stuff today.
There you go. That's what I
Like
do. What I do.
You're pretty good at it. I love it. Yeah, this is great stuff. So thank you so much for hopping on with us today, Chibs.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay. We got to work on our endings.